For today's video, I've popped up to Tupholme Abbey, not somewhere that I've been before, and saw it on a Facebook group that I'm a member of. Somebody else was taking photos of it, so I've stolen the idea and popped out to have a look. And yeah, it looks interesting. Looks like we've got an older building behind the ruins of the abbey. And not a lot here, just a wall really, and lots of sheep, and what sheep leave. Not sure how the audio will be because it's quite windy, but I'll struggle through it, and yeah, let's see if we can get anything. Probably going to be black and white. There's some interest in the sky that I think black and white will really pull out, be able to get quite a bit of contrast in that, and black and white's going to suit the ruin as well. Right, let's see what shots I can get. Okay, well, this is future me now. The wind was a bit too much. It really got up a bit later on, and yeah, and it was pretty bad for the first section, but everything else that I recorded had really awful wind noise. So I'm going to do something a bit different, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change things up, and I got a couple of shots that I quite liked, so I will put one of them up next, and then after that we are going to sit down in Lightroom and go through some black and white editing so you can see how I edit a picture. Well, here's the image that I was talking about. It's actually of the cottage that's next to the Tupholme Abbey ruins. I believe it's an 18th century cottage that's also ruined. And as a bit of an experiment, I did some bracketed shots and made a HDR image from it. Now, no HDR images often don't look the greatest, but with converting it to black and white, using the extra saturation of HDR image and playing with the colours, it really helped to bring out a lot of contrast. So anyway, on with the next shot, and into Lightroom, and you'll see how I edit that one. Okay, well, here's the image that I'm going to be playing with in all of its muddy horribleness. It will get better, hopefully. I'm sure that there is potential with this image as black and white, so let's get cracking. First of all, let's get it into a shape that I want. I envisage this as a 16:9, so let's move that in straight away, and work on it from there. You'll notice that I'm using Lightroom rather than Lightroom Classic. Most people on YouTube I've seen, they use Lightroom Classic, but I like Lightroom, so that's what I'm using. Now, there is built-in lens profile, so that's already there. The chromatic aberrations ticked, so no need to do anything like that. So let's get this into black and white. A little bit of a dull, not a lot going on there. Before we look at the sky, let's see what we can get going with this. bring the exposure up just a touch. And already start to see a little bit more contrast coming in. What I like about black and white is firstly I can see black and white. I'm colourblind, so that causes a few issues when I'm editing in colour, so I much prefer editing in black and white. Let's see if we can bring plenty of contrast in, maybe a bit more on the exposure now, but do want some detail in the highlight, lighten the shadows, increase. Very often if you're not sure what to do with a slider, if you take it backwards and forwards, then that can really give you an idea of the extremes of it and give you an idea of which way to go. So I'm going to bring up the whites a little there. Take the blacks down a touch. On the point curve, let's give it a nice little bit of an S curve just to still bring in some more exposure, lighten that up a bit. I'm going to deal with the sky afterwards, as I said. Now colour, but we're in black and white. The black and white mixer is an incredible tool in Lightroom, so I use it a lot. Let's try to pick out some little. Let's try to give us a bit more contrast. So I'm not liking this. Something I have noticed about this, because I was looking up at this. This is the top of the wall. Then there's quite a bit of distortion, which I will deal with in a moment. Right, don't want any split toning. Because I'm colourblind, I tend to overdo split toning. But we want plenty of texture in this. That really is bringing out the stoniness of the wall. Give it a bit of clarity. Let's see what dehaze. Dehaze, I'm going to come back. Well, perhaps look more at what that does to the sky when we put a grad in. You see, compared to how it was for a start, there's now a lot more grittiness to that wall. So that's definitely looking a lot better, and it's quite a quick little edit, this one. Sharpening, happy with it. Noise reduction, don't need it. So geometry, this is something that I do want to work with. So we are going to use guided upright, and I want that window to be right, so we'll put a line there, take a line for this window here, constrain the crop, not constrain the crop. Let's go back a little bit on that. Let's do this on on the crop tool rather than constrain crops. Is that decided it wanted to be silly? Where do I want this? Yeah. That looks quite nice. Now this, when I was there, was simply a just checking the place out. I've never been to the place before, so it was just have a look, see what shots there were. I may well come back and retake this shot and see what exactly I get. Right, so now we've got all of our uprights looking better. That sky is just not right. There was so much in the sky, hence why it was so windy. The weather was kind of awful. Right, let's see what we can get. Drop exposure, and already you see, as soon as I bring the exposure down, there was so much in the sky. We can pull that down, make that quite moody. Let's put a little bit of contrast into that. Even bring the grad down just a touch. Don't want it affecting the building too much. Of course, if I was in Lightroom Classic, I could put a mask on it, but we'll stick with what we've got. And let's now have a look at what we can do. A little bit of dehaze, and that looks quite stormy. So that's quite nice. So we want more texture in there, less texture in there. Let's have a look. More texture, less texture. Less texture is horrible. There's maybe a touch of texture. Clarity. Ooh. Yeah. That's horrible, that end. Far too much that end. But the point is to have a look at what the effect is. That's a little bit more clarity, and we've now got the clouds that were really dark when I was there. The wind was just overpowering. It certainly overpowered my microphone, and you've got those clouds now mirroring the grittiness of the Abbey. So that, I think, isn't too bad. So I'm quite happy with that. So that's essentially how I edit. That was actually quite a simple edit. I often do a lot of little local edits with a lot of radial filters, but I don't think that would really benefit this picture. So yeah, that will do. Right, if you've enjoyed this video, then please consider liking it and subscribing and all that stuff that YouTubers say. And I will be back next week with another video. So have a good week.